Hi everyone. So we are going to be reading The Universal Design for Learning in the Classroom. And so this is a textbook, and how textbooks are set up. They normally have chapters and then they have different sections in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off reading chapter 1. And the first thing that I'm going to look at is the title. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I have some notes marked. And it says, read first, And then I start reflecting on, hey, do I have background knowledge of this topic, any experiences with it? I'm trying to make those personal connections. Honestly, Dr. Meyer, she's a special education professor at the university, and she loves this topic. I mean, this is like her bread and butter. Like, she really enjoys this stuff. Outside of that, I haven't experienced UDL in the classroom. Maybe I just didn't know it was there, but to my knowledge, I haven't experienced it. So we're going to be reading pages 1 and 2 of this chapter. And so the key things that I'm looking for are section titles and kind of how it's broken up. So as I'm looking through it, you can already see there's one section heading, and then on the back, we're going to stop right before this new section. So we're just going to dissect this first little part of it. So to begin, what is Universal Design for Learning, or UDL? So on mine, I highlighted that. I think it's important to understand what UDL stands for, because they're not going to spell out Universal Design for Learning. So it's just nice to have that reminder. If I forget about it, I can come back to it. So continuing. If you're a recent graduate of a education program, you probably heard the term in your pre-service courses. It's kind of like the courses that we're taking now. If you're a practicing educator, you made it into the field. You may have read about UDL in a professional journal or attended a workshop in which UDL was a topic or was mentioned as a framework for planning. So I just made a little note here, like what journals, what academic journals are talking about UDL. I would kind of like to know more about that. So I made a little note there. You may know that federal education law provides for incorporating UDL into teacher training, both pre-service and in-service teachers. Well, I didn't know that, so I just made a little mark next to it. You may have heard that UDL has something to do with technology, personalized learning, neuroscience, and differentiated instruction. I've heard that in other previous courses, so I made a little asterisk right here. And I know it's hard to see. Sorry, this office up here at Camp Ripley is a little dark, but it says yes. Like, I have that background knowledge with it. So moving on, regardless of what you have heard or read, you may want to know more, and that's why you picked up this book. Well, the reason why I have this book is because I'm doing a research project with Dr. Powell. He's a special education professor here at the university. And UDL is one of the topics that is one of the foundations of our research project. So here we go, moving on to the next paragraph. In this chapter, we answer the primary question, what is UDL? So I just highlighted that, made a little note of it, just a little mental note, just, here's what this chapter is going to be about. Along with many other, let's see, I'm going to start that one over. We answer that primary question, what is UDL? Along with many others you may have. In doing so, we aim to provide you with a good grasp of the fundamentals of UDL. In subsequent chapters, wow, okay, that's a loaded word. I'm not gonna lie, I had to reread it a couple times, but as I'm thinking about it, it's subsequent, well, it's not previous chapters because it's the first chapter of this textbook, so in later chapters to come, you will read about how UDL is put into practice at different grade levels and across varying content areas. So those chapters will be even more helpful to you once you've read this overview. All right, so get a little overview of it. And if you want to know more, we invite you to visit our website. So then I just put a little asterisk at the bottom, just in case I do have more questions. I have this resource right here. So now we're actually diving into the chapter after that little synopsis overview of this chapter and the book as a whole. So the section heading is what is UDL? So UDL is a framework for instruction organized around 3 principles based on the learning science. Okay. So I made a little note right here that says, what are they? What are those 3 principles that UDL is organized around? So these principles guide the design and development of curriculum that is effective and inclusive for all learners. Okay, that makes sense because I've heard the term universal design for learning in my special education courses. So, all right, that's making sense to me. So moving on to page 2, based on 2 decades of research, so 20 years, into the nature of learning differences and the design of supportive learning environment, the UDL principles map onto 3 groups of brainworks. Okay, here are the principles that I made an asterisk next to on the previous page. So those brain networks are recognition, strategic, and affective networks that play a primary role in learning. All right, then it moves into these are the 3 UDL principles. Okay, so 1, to support recognition learning, provide multiple means of representation, that is, offer flexible ways to present what we teach. So here, I'm going to show you my little highlights. So up here, I forgot to mention this. I highlighted those 3 groups of brain networks because since I made that asterisk on the last page, like what are they? I highlighted the important stuff like here's what it is. And then with number 1, I highlighted the what. 1, it's italicized. So it just encapsulates all those words into nice, precise, the what. Principle number 2, to support strategic learning, provide multiple means of action and expression. That is flexible options for how we learn and express what we know. So how is also italicized, so I highlighted that. I also highlighted expression because I've seen in other charts in my research that word represented as a domain. Instead of strategic learning, it's always expression. Then moving on into the 3rd area, to support effective learning, provide multiple means of engagement, that is flexible options for generating and sustaining motivation, the why of learning. So I also highlighted why and engagement because just like the last one, I've always seen engagement, not the affect of learning. And I think that's important to understand these 3 brain networks of the what, the how, and the why. So that's another reason why I highlighted it. Continuing on, in the Higher Education Opportunity Act, I also highlighted this because in case I wanted to dive a little bit deeper and actually look into the full act, I have that ability. Back in August 14th of 2008, Congress defines UDL as a scientifically valid framework for guiding educational practice that A, provides flexibility in ways information is presented, in the ways students respond or demonstrate knowledge and skills, and in the ways students are engaged. And B, reduces barriers in instruction, provides appropriate accommodations, supports and challenges, and maintains high achievement expectations for all students, including students with disabilities and students who are limited with their English proficiency. And so this is how this section ends. So of this, I can take these highlighted, and now that I can use it as background knowledge moving forward throughout this textbook. So I hope you guys learned something, and thank you for listening.